peoples from the Hunkaminam language group on whose traditional and unceded territories we teach, learn, and live. The first item on our agenda tonight is recognition of our visitors, and we welcome all of our guests in the gallery. We have two announcements this evening. Trustee Wong? Oh, pardon me, Trustee DeBlotny?
Sorry,
That's okay.
I have to find my piece of paper. Lost it. I'm sorry.
No.
Briefs regarding the 2024-25 annual budget will be accepted without prior notice at the January 24th, 2024 regular meeting of the board, as well as at February 21st and March 13th regular meetings of the board. Please note that budget updates will be made available on the district's budget website, and all budget feedback will be considered by the board as part of the budget process, which is anticipated to be completed by April 24th, 2020.
Thank you. Trustee Beliza?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we approach the winter break, the Board of Education wishes to extend its warmest wishes to all our students, families, and staff for a peaceful and joyous winter holiday season. We are deeply fortunate to have such dedicated and passionate students, supportive families, and exceptional staff who contribute to the vibrancy of our educational community. May this holiday season bring you all the joy, relaxation, and quality time spent with loved ones that you deserve. And personally, I wish you all a new year filled with love, peace, and happiness. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary Treasurer, are there any materials not included in packages available to the public?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. In addition to the original meeting package, for the purpose of agenda item 7B, we also added the Richmond Community Protocol report onto the district's website under today's board meeting section. We can also make copies of the report if there are any requests from the floor. So therefore, all materials have been included in the on the district's website. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, just the adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions or changes to the agenda? I will be adding a board chair report to new business 8B. And now I am so pleased to, so excited about the choir.
I move.
Can I have a mover, please? Thank you, Trustee Yang, and seconded by Trustee Wong. Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. And now I am pleased to introduce the Steveston London Choir. Is comprised of students in grades 8 to 11, or pardon me, 8 to 12, and meets as a club 3 times a week. Steveston London also offers a daily choir class in second semester every year. The group has performed at numerous community and district events, including Jazz Night, the Retired Teachers Association, and the Olympic Oval. The choir recently competed a series of concerts at Lansdowne and Aberdeen malls on behalf of BC Children's Hospital, which raised close to $1,000 for mental health research and programs for youth for the Hospital Foundation. They are pleased to be here tonight, led by music teacher Michael Mickelin, and they will perform Take a Look at Us Now from the movie Lyle, Lyle, Crocodile.
Raise
You can pack your bags and start skipping town. Hang up that hat when the show shuts down. But when the world says you ain't quite world renowned, don't count yourself out yet.
Maybe we started it all. Take a look at it now. 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 Take a look at us now. It's time to follow it down, and give it. You're out of time. If you can't say But they don't all it took, so take a look at us now.
So even when you're terrified, just smile a smile a mile wide. 'Cause but when you and I collide, standing side by side,
Ready to say our song out loud, take a look at
Thank you. That was wonderful. What a perfect way to start our evening tonight. Thank you very, very much. I'm sure my colleagues would like to possibly ask some questions or make some comments themselves.
Well, I'm taking me two songs.
Yeah. Hey, we need to get our flashlights out or light to go.
Well, you come all this way.
Sounds good to me.
And so does fall upon the meadow trees and all the world's a snowy tapestry. That's when we can touch our dreams.
The blankets of your
In the brightness, we see clearly all that's been and what could be. The moon is high, the stars are bright, and the nature's play right. This winter's night. La 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 la
teachers us
Speech and speak. The sound of snow as they fall. Snow is not the paradise, and my nature's play right. For moment always right on this winter's night. La 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 la. So next time you see snowfall, stretch your hand out and recall. You write chance of your life and time. Stay on top of the world. The stars are bright and nature's bright. Born and all is right. All is winter's night. God is hiding every time. All is winter's night.
If you're prepared.
Oh, I don't need to find them. Oh, okay. Memorize all the lyrics.
Okay.
And he's reading tomorrow's homework assignment. He's already at page 36.
Oh. Yeah. Last night I had the strangest dream. I said away to China in a little way to find ya, and you said you had to get your laundry clean. Didn't want to told you what does that mean? And you say,
Ain't nothing gonna break my trust. Slow me down. Oh, no. I run to before moving. Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. Nothing I won't trust. Oh, no. I run to before moving.
You're on the road, now you pray you'll last. The road behind was rocky, but now you're feeling cocky. You looked at me and you see your past. Is that the reason why you're running so fast? And she said,
Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. Nobody can slow me down. Oh, no. I run to before moving. Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. I've been waiting a long time to figure out. Oh no, I gotta take it
Never let another girl like you. Never let another girl like you. Ooh. If I meet another girl like you, ooh. Never want another girl like you. Have to say, yeah.
Ain't nothing gonna make me strong. Nobody gonna slow me down. I know I don't keep on moving. Ain't nothing gonna break my strong. I'm gonna be a long time. Oh no, I got to keep on moving. Ain't nothing gonna break my strong. Nobody gonna slow me down. I know I got to keep on moving. Ain't nothing gonna break my strong. I'm ready to walk without the strong. I know I got to keep on moving. Keep on moving. Got to keep on moving.
Thank you very much. That was just wonderful. Really upbeat and just what we needed. Thank you. Please, trustee Yang.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And just wanted to say a big thank you to SLSS for coming out tonight. Well represented in the blue, I can see. You know, I can speak for myself, Trustee Wong and Trustee Beliza, that we've been treated to some very good music over the past week. I know because we attended a concert over at Burnett. They also sung some contemporary music, Skyfall. I don't know if you guys know that one, but certainly good music. And you know, what a great song to end off your presentation or your performance with everything that we do as a school system. We got to keep it moving for our community and for our schools. So with that, I wish you all happy holidays, however you choose to celebrate, and you know, keep going at it in the new year. Thanks.
Trustee Beliza.
Thank you for the music. And, you know, one of our strategic goal is to have inspired learners. And tonight, I can see in your faces that you are truly inspired by the music. You know, I believe that music is the language of the soul. You know, and tonight, it's a very delightful evening for me. Thank you.
Trustee DeBotny.
Well, I want to thank you for the music. That was, we could have that at every board meeting to start. Might have more lively discussion, but I just wanted to, you know, acknowledge and thank you for coming and taking the time to come out and sing to us. And you're really lucky to have Mr. Mickelin as your teacher. I hope you're grateful for that. My son actually was in his music program, the choir broadcasting program, and he is still singing and playing now. And he's 39 and he has a band. So keep it up, guys. He'll inspire you for life and it could become a career. You never know, because it did for him. So good on you. And you sound great as usual. Thank you.
Thank you again. Please help yourselves to some snacks out in the gallery out there and the lobby. Sorry, it's the gallery in here. And again, thank you very, very much for entertaining us tonight. It was lovely. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Just give a minute or two and they'll take the instruments and things away. The next item on our agenda is briefs. And I would like to invite President of the RTA, Ms. Baverstock, up to the table, please. Oh, did I do this?
Fabulous, Ms. Baverstock, President Richmond Teachers Association, and just used to that corner, but I didn't want to interfere with the magic that happened. So it was lovely. It was a nice treat. So I'll thank you for the opportunity to present our brief. And what I would say is that I think these reflect mutual concerns that we share for what elementary schools are experiencing in Richmond, where their sizes are definitely exceeding the capacity that they were built for. And the RTA, as you know, we've been involved in many joint advocacy opportunities, and we do remain committed in our belief that stakeholders must work together to realize the improvements to public education. And that's why we brought this brief forward to bring further attention, not thinking that it isn't something you're aware of, to really what makes a school. And that it is beyond the divisions and the classrooms. And sometimes these are forgotten by others who are not involved in public education, who may be farther afield from public education, but important decision makers being the provincial government and the Ministry of Education. So a school is much more than classrooms. It is a vibrant community that provides access to things like gyms, libraries, playgrounds, multipurpose spaces, to name a few. A school is about the people who need space to move through the school and places to be together. But as we know, access to space is limited. And oftentimes now we talk about it in terms of minutes. 33 minutes of access to gym time a week is actually a real schedule in an elementary school. What also gets impacted when you've got these pressures on space is community and connection. There's no space to bring your entire staff together to have lunch. You can't even often have even half of the staff together for lunch because of space. Schools can't actually come together in these same types of ways as they used to, where the whole school attends, say, a winter concert together. In some places, parents can't be invited as guests because there's no room in the gymnasium. These are pressures that are on our system. So we definitely recognize that the board and the district understand the pressures and challenges. But we do get asked. I mean, teachers come to us and they ask, do trustees understand? Do they appreciate the experience? And it isn't our job to actually speak on your behalf. That is for you to do. And what I do want to say tonight is I appreciate the recent letter that you sent and his public information to the mayor and the council that went out on December 12th. But I want you to know is I actually didn't know about it, found out by chance. It was a chance conversation. And so I do think that that's an important element. Is the question is, do the city center schools know about it? Do they know about this advocacy? Because I think this is important advocacy that they know about. And it might be a good idea just to, if we could be CC'd as stakeholder presidents, therefore we would know, we can actually help enhance the communication. You've got the school district website, but we have our own website. We have Instagram. So we have ways that we can actually make sure that more of our members are aware. And we do want to do that. We actually do value working together and really appreciate this letter. And I really hope that the city does come to the table further to discuss what was outlined here, discuss Dover Park, hopefully provide you opportunities to participate in a review of the city's official community plan, because I did take a brief look at it and do notice there's missing elements. School infrastructure is missing. It's a missing element. And today we've got the pressure on city center, but I think this is going to get bigger than this. We can see that this is really what's going to expand across Richmond as we see increased densification. That is where the provincial government wants to go. They want increased densification. And so with that, these pressures are going to expand beyond city center. What's also clear and really appreciated with this letter is that it will take all three levels of government. Everybody has to work together. The provincial government has to come to the table. The city of Richmond has to come to the table. And of course, you will remain at the table. You alone, trustees and the school district cannot solve this. You can't create land where it's needed. That isn't something you're able to do, but governments do have assets. And these are things that they're going to have to come to the table to explore. So I do once again want to thank you for your continued advocacy, your leadership, and also your willingness to provide the public and stakeholders like us opportunities both in public and privately to have opportunities to ask questions, to provide feedback. I also like to reflect, I like to walk around with a hot pink collective agreement for many reasons. When you're a union president, you live and breathe a collective agreement. But there's a lot of legacy pieces here. And one of the legacy pieces that is sometimes brought to my attention for a reminder, or I bring it to my attention, is the preamble in our collective agreement. And I want to thank the leaders who came before me, who sat at bargaining tables, both from the district and from the RTA, who ensured we bargained a collective agreement that includes a preamble that recognizes the importance of promoting harmonious relations between the board and the RTA and encourage cooperation through collegial decision-making, because I think that is the spirit of Richmond. And I do want to recognize, and we send a brief, we outline concerns, but we outline those concerns because we're here. We want to continue working together. And we also want to say thank you for the work that you continue to do. And with that, I wish you all the best for the holiday and for 2024. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughtful brief. It's always appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you. Great. We have no special recognition this evening, but we have an opportunity now for questions from the public. They're invited to come forward with questions regarding agenda items. And we will move on to our executive.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and good evening. Indeed, it's always wonderful when students come into the boardroom, and I think we saw evidence of the creativity and the talent that is represented in our schools across the district. We saw that this evening. As this is our last board meeting before the break, I think it's appropriate for me to take a moment to express gratitude to the individuals who work in our schools, in our central departments, across this organization, who makes the Richmond School District indeed the best place to learn and lead. So I have the pleasure of visiting schools, and the last few weeks, as the board is well aware, and a number of trustees have been to school sites with all the festivities and the student performances and so on. And there's certainly a lot to celebrate, and it's so wonderful that our students are afforded the rich opportunities to learn and to demonstrate their talents throughout our organization. As I visit schools, I also see our strategic priorities in action. I see the actions reflected in the strategic plan, And that leads me to the introduction we're going to be doing tonight, as this is our fourth board meeting. In the previous three board meetings, we've highlighted priorities 1, priorities 2, and priorities number 3. And today we get to showcase or highlight priority 4, a progressive workplace. But also, later on, my colleagues will be providing an update with respect to the progress we've made specific to priorities 1 and priorities 2. So at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce, to provide just a little bit remarks before I pass it on to my colleague to introduce the video that will be presented today to highlight strategic priority 4, a progressive workplace. And of course, as the board is well aware, goal number 2, now strategic priority number 4 speaks to professional learning, leadership, and skill development for all staff to make sure that that is promoted, encouraged, and supported in our school district. And of course, we know that it's by doing so that we enable staff to continue to do the excellent work that happens in our system and to support student learning and student well-being. At this time, I'd like to invite Assistant Superintendent Brodigan to provide some additional context for this evening's video and to introduce the video. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Superintendent UC. Tonight, we explore our district's commitment to professional learning, leadership, and skill development with a focus on ongoing learning about compassionate systems leadership, an approach that integrates empathy and understanding into our decision-making, fostering a supportive and inclusive environment. Throughout this video, we will witness engagement in professional learning and hear directly from staff as they share their personal experiences about their learning journeys and the thinking that goes into the planning and execution of professional learning. Their insights offer us a deeper understanding of how the empathetic and inclusive leadership style of compassionate systems leadership is positively influencing our district. In this video, you will see how professional learning supports our commitment to a progressive workplace and enhances the educational experience for all our students. What you will witness is a portion of a professional learning journey that started with an in-depth workshop and is continuing in the form of an ongoing book club. Book clubs allow for educators to deepen their understanding of a topic learned about at a workshop, how to integrate that learning into their practice, and then collaborate with each other to learn more and share successes and learnings with each other to strengthen their practice. Thank you to all of the staff who contributed to the making of this video.
Professional learning is highly important both at the district level and as part of the culture of the Richmond School District. It's an important part of your job and an important part of your journey at work, and also an important part of reaching the goals outlined in our strategic plan. Our principals and vice principals are really working towards making their schools better places for children and families and their staff, and by learning about compassionate systems leadership, we're really taking some positive steps in that direction. We have a group of administrators that are meeting to work on applying some of the ideas from the book into their school context through a structure of a book club. It's a follow-up from the summer training that we did with Peter Senge, where all of the Richmond leadership team got together for a couple of days and did a first dive into compassionate systems leadership. How can we as school leaders be infusing our school communities with compassion and also with leadership?
What I appreciate is the fact that we had this learning opportunity in August, and it was 2 days of professional learning, and we now can continue that learning through this book club. So as a group, we're coming together regularly over the year to be able to continue those conversations and to be able to apply them to our context. What we appreciate is the fact that the district values professional learning and that there are these opportunities for us to continue learning. We can have it over time. It's deeper conversations, and it's about allowing conversations to happen K-12. I think that's really important because when we talk about teaching and learning, it's about the whole child. Reading the book and listening to the presentations in August has reaffirmed what I believe as a leader, because I believe that it's about relationships. So I need to form relationships with my staff, I need to form relationships with students, I need to form relationships with my other admin team members, Because at the end of the day, I think it's really about who are we as a community, and if we care for each other, then I know that we'll be able to get through things, we'll be able to learn together, and we'll build an amazing culture of learning. It's about serving the system so that we can help lead, so that students can feel that we trust them, that they feel supported, that they can reach their biggest potential. And we do that by leading staff.
Evidence that I have that it's making a difference is in the types of conversations and questions that I'm having with principals and vice principals or people in leadership roles. They're asking more about application. How can I take some of these big ideas and then really make a difference?
I love these sessions because I came in with a situation or problem or something that I was wondering about, and more times than not, I walk away going, oh, I got a different perspective, or I might have a new skill or a different way of thinking about something. All of those things direct how we support students in the classroom. I hope that as a leader, I can inspire teachers to be part of a compassionate system, meaning that we care for our students and that students feel cared for and that they're part of our community and that they feel confident as a learner. I want them to feel that they can do anything. There's endless possibilities, and I want them to know that we believe in them.
That was wonderful. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Thank you very much. That was really lovely. Now we'll move to item number 6. Got the page, yeah. Approval of minutes of prior meetings. There was a record of an in-camera meeting of the board held Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023. We also have the minutes from the organizational meeting of the board held Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023 for approval. May I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Trustee Tablotny, seconded by Trustee Hamaguchi. All those in favor? Thank you. We also have the minutes from the regular meeting of the board held Wednesday, November 22nd, 2023 for approval. May I have a mover and a seconder? Trustee Yang, Trustee Sargent. Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you. Business arising from prior minutes. We will have a report, strategic plan, quarterly update, strategic priority 1 and 2 from Assistant Superintendents Brodigam and McMillan.
Good evening, everyone. It's our pleasure this evening to share with you some of the highlights as a quarterly report of the actions in progress for the 2023-2024 school year here in Richmond. More fulsome description of the actions that are currently underway can be found in the public board report beginning on page 23. There we go. As we've shared previously, Priority 1 Inspired Learners and its accompanying 4 goals contain a significant number of objectives that have continued to unfold this year, and many will continue to do so for the full scope of the 5 years of the strategic plan. What we're sharing today are some brief highlights of the work staff has undertaken this year, many cases deepening of the work initiated over the first 3 years of this plan. While we share each highlight as separate topics, it's important to note that wherever possible in our implementation of key actions, we're working to embed these aspects more holistically in our work. And you can see on this first slide some of the different aspects that really do come together to comprise Priority 1 Inspired Learners. I'm learning patience and time. So with the slide you see here, it speaks to the inquiry grants. And inquiry grants were offered again this year. They've been in place for a number of years. There's 114 teams participating participating in inquiries involving approximately 200 educators currently underway in our schools. The images you see here are from the first meeting of all of our inquiry grant teams in October of this year. The 12 grant areas that teams are participating in each apply for a different grant area, and many schools have multiple grants at play, very much reflect the educator focus within key areas of priorities 1 and 2 of the strategic plan, including curriculum, assessment, land-based pedagogy, social emotional learning, and equity and inclusion. A key aspect of how multiple areas of the strategic plan are supported is through professional learning. And I know I've brought that to this board a number of times over the years. And it takes a variety of forms, from small group inquiries, whole school supports, and district-wide events. This fall, for example, 600 elementary and 250 secondary teachers, as well as 170 education assistants, participated in mini conferences on Pro D days, focusing on such areas as literacy, numeracy, universal design for learning, and social emotional learning. And you can see in the top left corner there is the flyer for that event. And in the bottom left corner are one of the sessions around artificial intelligence. Ongoing professional learning opportunities for all staff have been promoted this year through our new district events site. Oh, now it's going to advance even without me. Which launched this fall, and we're quite excited about that. It provides an opportunity for both promotion of current events that are our upcoming events, as well as asynchronous learning opportunities. And at the time of the writing of this report, 112 offerings had been in place since September of this year. Curriculum and assessment, of course, continue to be foundational aspects in teaching and learning, including a focus on curricular and core competencies. Implementation of the pillars of literacy in the top corner, that's one of the pillars. It's the K-2 strand, which focuses on rich instructional practice and offers both focus areas and direct instructional support and resources for our educators, is now complete from kindergarten through grade 7 in both French and English. In terms of numeracy foundations, all components of the math foundations and numeracy sections are completed up to grade 9. The next step for both is to continue development of both the pillars and the foundations until by the end of June 2025, the conclusion of this current strat plan, the resources will be fully complete and implemented from K to 12. Both have been developed and shared as digital resources through our portal for easy access for educators and supported in an ongoing way through multiple learning opportunities. In terms of assessment, as you're aware, the provincial learning update policy was officially implemented this fall and includes use of proficiency scales from kindergarten through grade 9. While Richmond's been phasing in different aspects of this order for a number of years, the guidelines and implementation supports continue to be ongoing, with professional learning, guiding documents, and multiple school-specific lunch and learns, which is where folks come together to have lunch and do some learning, have been conducted to build clarity and consistency across our district. Parent evenings have also been held this year, with this year's session in October attended by approximately 70 individuals. In fostering resilient and healthy lifelong learners, a number of supports continue to be in place with enhancements and new initiatives for this year. As part of the ministry's mandate around consent education, the ministry's updated supporting student health guides, and those have been shared at both elementary and secondary. And the district will be hosting all about consent presentations across all secondary schools this year. The integrated child and youth teams are now fully staffed and working with schools to provide wraparound support for students and their families. In addition, regular communication and sharing of opportunities from and with community partners, including Richmond's early learning programs, are represented. Oh, I think I've missed a page. Sorry. Let me go back. In addition to regular communication and sharing of opportunities with our partners and from our partners, teams have been able to participate in different pop-up programs. For example, Richmond's early learning programs were represented at one of the community services pop-ups at Brighouse Library, and you can see that in action up there. And the team will participate again twice more this year. In addition, the integrated child and youth teams participated and attended pop-ups at October and November events to share information about their team services to again try to bring in and engage families in a variety of different ways. Key actions and directions in developing capacity and understanding around Indigenous perspectives and worldviews, as well as support for Indigenous learners, continues to be a strong focus. Resulting from the district's Equity in Action review last year, staff are currently building and implementing key actions resulting from the recommendations of the report. One highlight here is the development of 2 additional Indigenous gathering spaces, which will be at Boyd Secondary School and Kidd Elementary School. The image on the screen that you see in the bottom left, and I look forward to providing an update later in the year, is what we would call the before picture of the Indigenous gathering space to be placed at Kidd Elementary School. The second image there is a beautiful piece of artwork on the screen that will be placed at Boyd. And this was actually a donation from a previous student from our district who raised his own funds to commission artwork by Indigenous artist Joylene Andrew that you see here, and presented that during an Indigenous gathering of families at one of our events last month. This year has also seen the implementation of the Indigenous-focused graduation requirement. All of our secondary schools are currently offering English First Peoples 12 and BC First Peoples 12. Ongoing professional learning opportunities are offered, as well as support from our Indigenous teacher consultant. Our final highlight from within Priority 1, Richmond held a district-wide non-instructional day on September 22nd, which involved all district staff, both educational and non-educational, in a full day of focused learning on Indigenous worldviews and perspectives and topics related to truth and reconciliation. Professional learning is ongoing in a variety of forms, with 9 schools also participating in inquiry grants focused on truth and reconciliation. This important work continues, as does dedicated support for Indigenous learners from their school teams and the Indigenous Success Team. This concludes the highlights, or some of the highlights, I would say, from Priority 1 Inspired Learners. And as I say, we always look forward to sharing more at a future date. In all areas of Priority 1, we're pleased to share that the key actions are well developed and underway. Many are multi-year, as mentioned, and each year gives us a chance to deepen that understanding and build capacity across all of the goals and objectives. We further continue to access indicators of success through multiple feedback opportunities and data points, from educator responses to professional learning, hearing from the experiences of students and families, and tracking growth in specific areas, such as collecting early learning reading data to ensure we're on track in achieving the goals and objectives set out in the strategic plan. As mentioned, these slides touch upon just a few of the opportunities and key actions underway, and I'd refer the public to the full report in the board package for additional details on the work initiated and ongoing this year. I'll now pass things over to Assistant Superintendent Brodigan to share highlights from Priority 2, Equity and Inclusion.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent McMillan. Good evening, everyone. So the work within Strategic Priority 2, Goal 1, Equity and Inclusion, supports and expands on our mission to ensure that all of our students, families, and staff feel welcome, are treated respectfully, and have a sense of belonging in the Richmond School District. The work that supports Goal 1 includes the Aspen Review recommendation implementation that has included staff visioning sessions, establishing review of entry and exit criteria for students, and the addition of a behavior specialist role. The action plan for the alternate program review contains current actions that include quarterly meetings with secondary alternate program staff, focusing on growth and progressive change and sharing ideas across programs, expanding opportunities for students to participate in work experience, career and trades programs, and dual credit programs, as well as beginning work on program articulation to develop consistency and clarity regarding programs, as well as entry and exit criteria. Additionally, elementary and secondary administrators engage in monthly inclusive learning network meetings to deepen their capacity and alignment in inclusive learning practices. And professional learning opportunities have included the Elementary and Secondary Learning Resource and English Language Learning Teacher Conference, which had 180 participants, school-based team training with 110 participants, and individual education program development with 85 participants. Goal 2 of Priority 2 states that the district actively addresses unconscious bias and privilege, systemic discrimination, and marginalization. The quarterly update for Strategic Priority 2, Goal 2, describes some of the actions that are underway to be addressing this priority. On the screen is an example of a learning journey for Strategic Priority 2, Goal 2, Objectives 3 and 4, and how the learning has been layered on from 2020 until now, with space in between these learning opportunities to practice, collaborate, and deepen learning in opportunities such as book clubs like you saw in the opening video. School staffs and employee groups across the district are on similar learning journeys, engaging in district-offered professional learning, as well as lunch and learns with their school staff, book clubs, and other learning opportunities that are tailored to meet their learning needs. In November, a DEI survey for employees and secondary students was administered to determine how we are doing so far with regards to the objectives and Strategic Priority 2, Goal 2. In the employee survey, there were 644 employees who responded, and 93% of employees told us that they have engaged in learning related to diversity, equity, and inclusion through offerings from the school district, as well as pursuing learning opportunities on their own. 80% of those who have not engaged in learning so far at the time of taking the survey told us that they are interested in doing so. The DEI Advisory Committee has taken an initial look at the employee data and is looking forward to doing a deeper dive into the anecdotal comments and pulling out themes that will add to the quantitative data to determine which of our strategic priority objectives require further attention in the coming months, as well as where significant progress has been made. Employees have engaged with learning about a wide variety of topics related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, such as anti-racism, decolonization, First Peoples principles of learning, gender equity, historical roots of racism, how to address discrimination, intersectionality, privilege, sexual orientation and gender identity, truth and reconciliation, resource selection, unconscious bias, and many more. And employees told us that they have engaged in that learning in a variety of ways, including lunch and learns, book clubs, and professional learning workshops. Objective 1 of Strategic Priority 2, Goal 2, is to identify and develop a plan to respond to current district challenges related to systemic discrimination and marginalization. As we work towards achieving this goal, employees told us that 62% of them agree or strongly agree that they have become more accepting of difference in the last 3 years. And 85% agree or strongly agree that they have noticed kinder treatment towards others in their schools and in their departments. And 83% of them feel more comfortable sharing their culture at work. Objective 4 of Goal 2 is to ensure students and staff have access to current and relevant learning resources that reflect the diversity of and the challenges faced by our community and the world. In the survey, there was an expressed need for more professional learning on neurodivergence, ableism, ageism, as well as SOGI education for teachers and parents. Employees indicated that the learning has helped them improve their understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion topics, build their compassion and empathy, and has inspired them to learn more. Many expressed gratitude for this focus and the learning opportunities that have been provided by the district. School-based members of CUPE also told us that they would like more opportunities to be included in the learning that is provided for teachers. 62% of employees told us that they would know what to do if they saw someone being discriminated against, and 52% of them feel that what they report would be taken seriously, which is an improvement from when we conducted the external DEI audit back in 2020, when only 40% of employees felt this way. The data shows us that the reporting process for discrimination issues still requires more clarity, however. And this, as the survey, even though the survey indicates an improvement of just over 20% of people feeling they don't know what to do or who to tell, in the external DEI audit that we did in 2020, when 33% of respondents told us that they didn't know what to do or who to tell if they felt discriminated against or saw that happening to someone else. We asked students in grades 8 to 12 some similar questions. 782 of our grade 8 to 12 students responded to the survey. And 92% of them told us that they have engaged in learning related to DEI topics at school. And 69% of those of students have also, in addition to that learning in school, have pursued learning on their own or in clubs in their school context as well. Students told us that they have learned about a variety of topics connected to DEI at school from their classroom teachers, that their learning has helped them increase their understanding, knowledge, and empathy. So, and as I said, some students continue to pursue learning on their own. Objective 1 of Priority 2, Goal 2 is to identify and develop a plan to respond to current district challenges related to systemic discrimination and marginalization. And we were interested in finding out how students are feeling about how to report or what to do when they see someone being mistreated or discriminated against, or if it happens to themselves. 33% of them said that they felt comfortable stepping in peacefully to support another student, and 37% of them said that they would know who to go to for help. And when students go to adults for help at school with an issue related to inequity or discrimination, 37% of them said they feel confident that it will be taken seriously. In June of 2020, 15% of students said that they would know who to go to for help. And also another 15% also said that they were not sure what to do about it. So we're seeing a little bit of an improvement in this area based on some of the focus work that we have been doing over the last few years. However, although we see that there are improvements in students feeling that what they're reporting will be taken seriously or that they know what to do or who to go to, there is still a need for focused attention in this area as we see from the evidence. So initial analysis of the survey data indicates that the district's efforts to achieve the goals and objectives of this priority are making a difference, and it also provides us with an opportunity to further analyze which objectives require additional attention and focus in the coming months. That concludes our report, and we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Trustee Beliza?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is with regard to inclusion. The goal of inclusive educational system is to provide all students with the most appropriate learning environment and opportunities for them to best achieve their potential. I like this as a part of the preamble of the School Act. But knowing that we have some problem, by the way, thank you for a very good and comprehensive report. We always aspire to, to improve student learning and to enhance our student achievement, success. My question is, because of shortages, I know it is for all learners, so for special needs, regular students, and other exceptional students, and especially immigrants too, newly landed immigrants. So we need to, I guess, explore and develop their full potential as all learners. Now, with the shortages, especially DEAs, the special needs students, we have I guess shortages in terms of recruitment, right? EAs, teachers. I guess my question is, what are some of the in your assessment, what in order to have an inclusive, I guess, education, what are some of the challenges or barriers that we have in School District 38 insofar as best practices is concerned? And I guess if we do, how do we cope with all those challenges? And what is your message to the board that we can do in order that we can improve student achievement? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It's a big question. I'll speak to one aspect, of course, that you highlighted. You know, there's different constraints that come and over the years and in different places, and certainly shortages like staffing shortages we faced at different times over the last couple of years is one of those constraints. I think one really important piece, and I think that is such a value, speaks to the value of inclusion, but also what it looks like in practice, is that approach with a number of staff working in an integrated way. You know, I'd be very concerned if support for inclusive learning hinged on only one aspect. And so while I'm not in any way denying that there are challenges that come along the way, particularly around something like staffing shortages, what we see are staffs coming together to provide and develop different alternate ways of providing that support, of bringing in other staff who provide different layers of support for that student, if that is a given day situation. And certainly in the development of an inclusive learning plan for a child with a developmental disability, that may involve multiple staff who are working together in tandem and in collaboration to create the best environment that really is there to meet the needs of that student where they are and move them forward. So a shortish answer to that question is really about the multi-layers of support that are very much targeted to meet the needs of that student. And just like a stool or a chair that might be leaning one way, we can bolster it up and create other supports while we wait for those problems to be mitigated or be solved in different ways.
Trustee Tablotny, followed by Trustee Sargent, Trustee Yang, and Trustee Hamaguchi.
Well, thank you so much for the report. When I look at it, I'm just blown away by how far we've come since we all sat around a table putting together and how we're measuring our success and the work of the DEI committee and some of the other committees. And it's just fantastic that we're getting these reports back. And so my question was, you'll be sharing some of these slides and stats with the board, some of your presentation with us?
Yes,
that possible?
absolutely. So in your report is more the sort of numerical list. But
Right.
I'm happy to make the visuals available to you.
The visuals really helped. I mean, it was just inspiring to see, I guess way back when we were first meeting as a DEI committee, to see that it's been effective, that the surveys we sent out then and then following up have led to something and led to more awareness and understanding. And I think that's absolutely fantastic. And then just on shortages, and as Assistant Superintendent McMillan said, we find ways of achieving the goals in spite of shortages. And it's just amazing when we get these reports because we have prevailed, even though, the system isn't perfect and we do suffer from shortages. But thank you for all the work that you've done. I've never seen, 4 years, 3 years move like this in all of my years as trustee. So thank you very much.
Trustee Sargent.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm thinking about when Trustee Tablotny's talking, we're going to have to start our new strat plan soon.
Yeah.
Or we must be in the works, right? I mean, if it's already 4 years. Yeah, really appreciate the PowerPoint, and I think it's great if the public could see that. So I guess it will go on the website. I think it's really helpful for people to see where we're going. Really appreciate our public reporting out, and you try to do it much, very lively rather than here's the paper. So I appreciate that. I like the dance earlier, but I guess I'm on the DEI committee, and we had discussions about the reporting out. And I have to say, and I know you must feel this way too, we have made an improvement, but those numbers are not, it doesn't make us very proud. So I'm wondering, would you continue on the same kind of approach? I know it's a very complicated, as we discussed at the committee, there's multi-pronged approach to this, and some people sometimes don't realize they're perhaps talking in a discriminatory way. And so we also wanted, it's a learning organization. So we all have to learn to be better. And so would you look for a different or a multi-pronged approach to getting that percentage way higher? And do you see us talking about that at DEI or with our stakeholders and or all the above kind of thing?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Absolutely. So at the DEI advisory, we've taken an initial look at the data, just the employee data actually, because the student survey was still in progress at the time of our last meeting. And we'll be taking a much deeper dive, as I said, into the anecdotal comments, which also really paint out the picture of how we're doing in the DEI space. As we know, work in diversity, equity, and inclusion has many layers. And we've come a certain distance on our learning journey, and we've seen some improvement. And there's quite a lot more work to do. But I think what some of the survey data gives us is where to target some of that support, how to bring all of our employee groups into the learning. A great example of that is the non-instructional day we had in September, where every employee in the district participated together in the same learning and then had department and school-based discussions in the afternoon to further develop that learning. And that kind of a model will help get us deeper into, I think, improving those percentages, because those conversations will be more alive in every department, not just in our schools, for example, or not just in our leadership groups, for example. So yes, multi-pronged approach, looking at new and innovative ways to provide the learning to others. It was really wonderful to see that 92% of our students said they've engaged in learning at school, because I do believe that our teachers are really committed to instruction in the DEI space, and we want to be able to support them as much as we can through learning services to build their capacity so that they can continue that teaching and learning with their students and support the discussions that happen in their classrooms to help all of our students be compassionate, kind citizens as well. And so definitely more to come in the advisory committee and more reporting back here as well.
Thank you.
Trustee Yang?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And, just as the previous conversation has touched on, my quick comment was that, I think we have obviously put an effort and hard work into ensuring that students, staff, and, members that use, that are in our school communities feel safe and included. The data shows that we have much work to do, but like you've presented here tonight, we're taking those incremental steps to improving, right? And that's, learning takes time. And just a question I had around numeracy as well, part of priority one. I know that just hearing from parents who are concerned about the numeracy education in schools, particularly those who are going from elementary to secondary, the feedback is that some families have experienced a drop-off in student achievement when entering into secondary. And I know in the report, our numeracy plan hasn't been fully developed yet, K-12, but I was just wondering if there are some strategies or what staff is doing to improve some of those outcomes for students going from grade 7 to grade 8, because those are, going into secondary, those are the really important years where if you are going into ADST or, those sciences fields, the math is just imperative.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, hearing that, and that's something I'll take back to our team as well. You know, as we're building the resource, and certainly it'll take the full 5 years to build all of it. One thing I want to be really clear on is that it doesn't mean that there's no support for educators, you know, at secondary, and that there's not professional learning ongoing. Certainly, there's a variety of different strategies and growth areas in terms of building more instructional resources to support our educators. But that's a piece of feedback I hadn't heard in terms of that transition piece. So I'm going to take that back to our team for us to explore and connect with secondary teachers as well. So I appreciate that.
Trustee Hamaguchi.
Kind of answered my question, but, you know, this is the 5-year journey. And, we're 4 years into it. At this point, is there any areas that really stick out as like, you know, ooh, we gotta really pick this up here, or we need more support here, or is there any sort of, areas where it really stands out as, we could use some more help here?
Let me start with priority one. Sure. So, within priority one, you know, one thing I would say that I've been very grateful for as a supporter of the learning services team is the growth within that team, and the fact that we have a number of staff at learning services, but I also want to speak to school staff that are deeply embedded in this work. I will say that, you know, we meet as a team regularly and review the strat plan. And so because we have staff dedicated, although we look at priority one and it's enormous, within each of the goals and within each of those objectives, we have leadership staff dedicated to those aspects of the strategic plan. So there are different pressure points that come up as we get going. And, you know, obviously things like literacy and numeracy, you know, we want to be there right now, and we can only push the boundaries of space and time so far. Certainly with, you know, mental health supports, but we've had dedicated staff leaning into that work. So while I would say we would like more time, we'd like time to speed up for ourselves, I would say we're actually really pleased that we've been able to go through and really address each one of those objectives in really meaningful ways. I have to say our team comes together for posting parties, we call them, where we update and actually record our actions on a regular basis. And that always gives us a really good check against, is there something where we say, oh my gosh, we haven't looked at that very closely this year? And so that's one way that we're ensuring, but I would have to say, honestly, we're really pleased with the progress that's been made. But I'm speaking on behalf of a learning services team, but I really just want to emphasize that this is very much the work of folks in schools as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Trustee Wong.
Thank you, Chairperson. So my question is page 28, the equity and inclusive. So you have showed that connect the information, the survey from someone is feel that do not feel a sense of belonging in the school. So if that coming out, so do you have any just like way to reach that student and get any support for them?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So when we see a number of 60% of students say that they feel a sense of belonging at school, that's definitely an area for improvement. So one example of that, and I think it's highlighted here in the report, is around our Indigenous students. We saw a greater number of Indigenous students expressing that they weren't feeling a sense of belonging at school. So we put a strategy in place to connect directly with our Indigenous students and their families, with the Indigenous Success team, the school administration team, as well as the resource and counseling staff at school, to really wrap around those students, to understand from them what would help them feel connected and a sense of belonging at school, and really increasing the conversation with them and their families so that they're getting the supports that they need, so that hopefully we start to see those numbers increase. So that's one example. Similarly, with any other groups of students, it's that a lot of times it's that one-on-one or small group connection that needs to happen to really understand what is happening for those students who are telling us that they don't really feel like that they belong in the school community, and what can we do better to support them.
The survey is for all the school district student or just focus on the indigenous student?
So there is a focus on Indigenous students for sure, because we did see those numbers a little bit lower. But the focus is for all of our students to feel that they have a sense of belonging. Another strategy for that is student focus groups. So we'll have, because student voice is also one of our strategic priorities, and it's although it's not the priority we're reporting on tonight, it is quite connected. And so over the last few years, we've increased focus groups in schools to ask students directly what's working for them in terms of feelings of belonging at school, and what their school could do to improve on that. And we have a teacher consultant who helps to facilitate those focus groups along with the school staff, so that there's that facilitation skill, and then also school staff are there to hear what students have to say.
Do you have any information just give to the student that they can get help?
Yes, absolutely. So our counseling centers in schools, they have posters up around schools. Especially in our secondary schools, you'll see lots of QR codes and posters around about how to get help. And then in our elementary schools, because kids have one teacher, it's often the connection with their classroom teacher who might help to refer them to speak to the counselor and that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Superintendent Yusi, would you?
Yes, Madam Chair. Just a couple of comments, just to just build on what you've heard from the assistant superintendents. I think we all recognize that significant positive work has happened in this district. And when I arrived and looked at the results, both on the FESO reports and the conversations we've had, the Richmond School District, it's a high-performing school district. And I think we recognize that. And kudos to all the folks in the system, teachers, support staff, and everyone who does that work. But in the spirit of continuous improvement, we also recognize that there are some students who are not at the proficiency level. And I think it's important for us to support our principals around disaggregating data at the school level to figure out who the students are. And I will support those students in a way that every student in this district, every classroom in every school continues to have that best opportunity to achieve. And that is a way of, first of all, acknowledging and really celebrating the points of success of the good work that is happening in the district, because it's important to mention so. It's a good place to build on. We recognize there will never be a time where 100% of students in our schools are at the proficiency level. We recognize that that's not something, but it's not just an aspirational goal. It's a goal that we must strive each and every day to ensure that every student, and the way we do that is to ensure that principals and school teams have the supports that they need to, first of all, disaggregate data by school and identify at each school the students who are not achieving, whether they're ELL, Indigenous, any student population within our system. And the good news is that I'm pleased to know that in many places around our school district, that's happening. So kudos to the senior team who are present here today. We'll have more information to share in the new year. Some of the work that we're doing around that, moving in that direction, to support principals and our school teams around the data, because it's really important that at the school level that we're able to identify and drill down and making a determination who the students are who are achieving success and celebrate that success, but also to be very focused on those who are not meeting targets, and how we're going to support that so that each school will have a plan. And yes, we do have our school stories. Each school has that on the website, but I think it would also be important to ask the questions. Who are the students who are not on target in literacy and who are not on target in mathematics, and how we support those students? So kudos to the team, and I think, and also that kudos is extended not only to senior team, but to our teachers, our support staff, and our school leaders who do this very important work. So thank you, Madam Chair.
I just have a really quick comment and a question, actually. When the questions are asked about belonging, is there any other word used, or is it just belonging?
So the question about belonging is on the, specifically on the student learning survey, which is administered to students in grades 4, 7, and 10 by the province. So there's questions, a question about, do you, at school, do you feel like you belong? There's a question, do you feel safe at school, and do you feel welcome at school?
Just, I find that, I just wonder how many children really relate to what that word means, or what does it mean to them? It's a pretty big word kind of thing. But the other thing I wanted to say, and it's interesting that Superintendent Yusi mentioned about the building. I think about the foundation that's been built so far, and we build as we go along. And I'm at an elementary school probably 3 times a week picking up little children. And I see this wonderful, it's not even called acceptance. It's just everybody out in the playground or in the classroom, and it's just another kid. Or I know that sounds kind of, but you see it. It's amazing. At the hip hop the other day, there were children in there in wheelchairs and special walkers and guided along, and everybody took part. And there was just a sense, nobody was different. Nobody was sitting aside, and we really are doing some good things and building, and we will continue to do that. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion. Trustee Yang?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Yes, so item number 7B is a motion that I put forward, and I'll just read it out now. That the Richmond Community Protocol be referred to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee for further study and recommendations. Perhaps I can move that motion, and so we can get it on the floor.
Okay.
Debate.
And seconded by Trustee DeBlotny. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. So yes, the Richmond Community, is just as background information for everybody, the Richmond Community Protocol is a guide that is developed by the Richmond Multicultural Community Services, one of our nonprofits here in the community, as part of the province's work on anti-racism and their Resilience BC initiative. This document contains resources, guidelines, definitions on how to respond to racism and what members of the community can do when faced with incidents of hate. And so the rationale of bringing this forward tonight is it was brought to my attention that this previous board has been had been involved in the protocols planning. However, based on some of the conversations I've had with those involved, there doesn't seem to be any information or continuity as to what the district has done with the protocol since it was established. And so by referring this to the DEI committee, the hope is we can further examine this resource in depth and allow for recommendations to come forth on how to best utilize this resource. And this is opportune time as well because as a member of policy committee, we understand that there may be, we're anticipating some revisions on policy 102, our policy on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I believe this is opportune time for some of that homework to be done for the DEI committee. So I'll just leave it at that and welcome any comments or questions.
Trustee Wong?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So my question is that you are sure that the Richmond Community Protocol is created by the Richmond Multicultural Community Service?
Chairperson.
For the fire, I didn't catch that with the fire truck. Were you able to?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Chairperson, and through the chair to Trustee Wong. So this is a document that was initiated by the RMCS in collaboration with community partners, and one of the community partners that was at the organization or part of the planning were trustees that were sent to this planning group. years ago, but my point being, again, that there was no continuity as to what had happened after the protocol had been established and published to the community. And so by bringing this forward, I think we allow those who have been engaged with DEI work in our district to have a good look at this and see if it's a good fit, and to come back with recommendations.
So I agree that is benefit to just like get some information from that Richmond community protocol, but you need to give more information related to the Richmond multiple community service. So he just the one organization just provide the community protocol. So if you say ensure that, so I would like you to provide some information to the public to make sure is that is created by RMCS and the other members, right? Committee member.
Trustee, is that, or I have trustee Sargent and then trustee DeBonny.
Yeah, thank you. And just for clarity, I believe I was on that working group, I think about 6 years ago. We were not establishing a protocol. We were just having a discussion. So just to be fair, the district never saw the protocol officially. We were not designing the protocol. So district didn't drop the ball or anything like that. It never came to the district. I attended a couple of meetings as a trustee who was interested. Nothing really came of it. There's since now trustee Yang has brought forward, this is the protocol. I have confirmed with the director that there is a new one, which is the second one we see tonight. I'm assuming that is from RMCS. But you know, it is a community organization that has presented or documented what might be a good way to approach hate and bias in Richmond City. Now, I think we also have an extremely knowledgeable and really a wealth of knowledge with our district staff. So if this motion is just sending it to DEI as a resource, have a boo at it, great. I'm looking for clarity on what would be recommendations. I sit on the DEI. I'm not sure what I would do with this as far as bringing back recommendations. I don't know what kind of recommendations we would be bringing back. So again, to me, I'm taking this as it's a resource. There's many in the community and there's many in our own district staff who have so much knowledge and understanding of what we need to do, as well as the ministry, et cetera. So if it's one piece that we give to the committee, great. Have a little boo at it, great. Recommendations, I need clarity from the mover on what you expect the committee to do with it. Thank you.
We have trustee DeBlotny, followed by trustee Beliza, followed by trustee
And
Hemmerly.
if I could have clarity before, no, before we
yes, of course.
are asked to vote. Thank you.
So, I remember the committee. I remember the discussions around formation of the committee and a request for trustees to attend some of the meetings. And there was a couple of reports back, but, protocol was never really discussed. I think it was called an anti-racism committee at the time, and it was in response to something I can't quite remember. There were things going on in the community. But, you know, the protocol for this organization, I mean, they've done some decent work at forming a protocol. They obviously, you know, came together and put together a document. And I don't really see the harm in sending it to the DEI committee for them to look at and study. And, you know, there could be recommendations that come out of it. There might not. Maybe the recommendation is to just, you know, just to further use some of the information to further the the work of the DEI committee. It doesn't have to be anything astounding coming out of, you know, out of the protocol agreement. It's just to look at it and understand and maybe inform the work of the committee. That's the way I see it.
Trustee Beliza.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a copy here of the Richmond Community Protocol. And if I see the table of contents, it contains intent and purposes of the protocol, individual and systemic institutionalized racism, mechanism for community members to respond to incident of racism, mechanism for stakeholder to respond to incident of racism, and mechanism to support community members who are victims of racism. So practically, those are the table of contents. My question would be to our district, do we have a similar protocol to respond to this criticism or this problem of racism, whether it's individual or institutionalized, because this is for community. But in our school, do we have similar? How do we respond if we are in the school vicinity or school jurisdiction? And secondly, we are referring it to the DEI in the event that the subject matter is involving indigenous community or member of the indigenous community. Would it be DEI or IEAC, Indigenous, Advisory Committee? So which we are still trying to ascertain the mandate of that particular committee. So I'd like to see if there is any difference, because this is for the good of our students and for our community. Is there differences? Do you have any protocol? And if there are differences, what is good for the district? Because eventually we have to decide what's good for the district. And we should have one, because that is one of the societal issues that we always face, especially at this point in time. So I'm glad that we are referring this to at least have an idea of how to, I guess, have this kind of response in case there are issues that will arise in our school. It is just for exploratory matter and for us to determine whether there is a need for in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Hamaguchi.
I sat on that committee probably longer than most, because I thought it was, a good committee to be on to work towards putting out with policy. In terms of the lack of continuity, there definitely was a lack of continuity, but it was lack of continuity while we're putting this all together, because there was a revolving door of people being in the meetings and then leaving the meetings and so forth. And but after the motion itself, like, I have no problem with it being referred to DEI. If they can take a look at it and say, hey, here's some things that we can incorporate, or here's some things that we didn't consider, then that we might want to add to our policies, then can't lose there. But as I said, in coming together, like I said, I was quite involved in. I didn't realize the policy was even finished and sent out, so I never got a copy of it, right? But doesn't take away from it being a valuable document. But all Trustee Yang has asked is, we just send it to our DEI committee and let them take a look at it. I see no harm in that whatsoever. And if they can find something, worthwhile out of there, or something that can enhance our policies, then that's great too. Like, to me, this is a no-lose situation.
Thank you. Trustee Sargent, I think you asked for some clarity, or did you want to respond before?
Perhaps I can close debate, offer some words to close
Sure,
debate
go
and
ahead.
move into the vote. Just in response to a couple of comments that were made on the floor, if you refer, if folks can refer to the document itself, it's very clear that the RMCS is the organization that takes ownership of this, and that's confirmed by conversations that a few of us had prior to the meeting with their director on this, who had been working on this and continue to. So there's no, I guess if there's any doubt on that, I suggest to refer back to the document itself. But just on the recommendation piece, the DEI committee structurally reports to the board, right? And so, you know, if there's any recommendations, if at all, after they've done their research, that will come to the board. And certainly we lean on the knowledge and expertise of this committee, which is comprised of, you know, our educators, stakeholders. And so it's not for me to presuppose what they think is best. But like it's been said on the floor, I think there's no harm in taking a look at this and see what comes about it. At the end of the day, I think it's good to tie up some loose strings if previous work hasn't been all that smooth. So with that, I'll leave it at that and move forward. Thanks.
Trustee Sargent, you just had go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, based on what I've heard here, I hear it as a very casual, send it over to the committee, have a look at it. It's a resource. Recommendations are, if you feel like there's something glaring that we should know about, of course, we would want to know. So with that clarity, that there's no big recommendation coming before the board, then I would support the motion. Obviously, it's another resource in the community. I'm sure there's lots of others as well. So thank you.
Okay. Seeing no further questions or comments, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. I remembered. Thank you. Okay, new business. We have another motion. Trustee Toblock.
Yes. So the Richmond Board of Education is entrusted to ensure the safety of its employees and students. And I'm recommending that the Board of Education direct the superintendent to conduct a feasibility study regarding the introduction and use of automated external defibrillators and naloxone kits in public school buildings and report back to the Board of Education in a timely manner. And I'm leaving that open so that the superintendent and his staff can do that work. And I'm ensured that that will happen in a very timely manner.
Can I have a seconder?
Second for discussion.
Trustee, pardon me?
I'm seconding it for discussion.
Trustee Yang, seconding. Thank you.
Okay, so I can open debate on this. So with automated external defibrillators, they can play a crucial role in saving lives during a sudden cardiac emergency. And they're portable devices, if anybody hasn't seen one, that can analyze a heart's rhythm and deliver an electric shock that could help reestablish the heartbeat. And sudden cardiac arrest can happen. I mean, we have many people in our schools, we have staff, parents, anything could happen. And having an AED in schools increases the chances of survival. And we actually, at one point, there was a boy at McNeil. He was a young boy, I think grade 8, and he had a sudden cardiac arrest. And it was one of those things that was unexplained even after it happened. And there was an AED in the school, and the teacher knew how to use it. And the ambulance that attended said they were amazed that there was one in the school, and had that teacher not use that AED, that student was sure to not survive. So he is walking still. He's probably in his 20s now. But they also attended the board meeting, and we recognized the teacher for using it. Now to my understanding, those devices are not in every school, and our staffs are not all trained in using them. So I think it would be a good idea to explore the use of these. They're easier to use now than I think they were back then. I think when they put the probes on, you can put the probes on and it will tell you whether you should be shocking the patient or not. But I will leave that to the training. Our staff would have to be trained. And, we do have first responders, some of our students that could also be trained in this. And it's a very good practice for them if they're considering going into first responding later on. There is probably a cost to these devices. They're more expensive. So that's why the motion on that is to report back to the board and to, sort of do the feasibility study. Now, naloxone kits, I want to point out that in the motion, I have said a feasibility study, first of all, about introducing the use of naloxone kits in schools. Now, I think we've had some questions about whether they would be handed out to students. I don't think that was even suggested in the motion. However, we do have first responders that might be able to be trained on using them. It's also, I've heard of parents actually supplying their kids with naloxone kits if they go out to parties, because there have been overdoses. We may not hear about the overdoses, we hear about the deaths. And I know for a fact we've lost students in our school system in this district. But this is not solely focused on students. This motion is to protect anybody in the school building or on the school ground that could be having an overdose. And actually, there could be, I've heard of a dog sniffing a bag and having an overdose reaction. They ran it to the vet, gave it naloxone, it came back. They have the dog still. So there's accidental poisonings that have happened. There was actually found a bag, it was fentanyl, but turned it in to the right people. So this can happen accidentally. A very, very tiny bit can kill you. A naloxone kit is very easy to use. It's drawn out of the vial, put in the muscle very quickly, and can bring a person back very quickly. You still have to call 911. There is no danger to someone that is not having an opioid overdose. You would still call 911 anyway. But there can be brain damage because somebody is not breathing. It is very important that these kits be accessible and that people know how to use them. This overdose crisis, the leading cause of unnatural cause of death in children under 18, it is the leading cause of death, overdoses, which is astounding. This should not be happening. And the drugs that are out there right now are absolutely toxic. The coroner has put out a warning just last week again about the toxicity. When we were all young, maybe we experimented. I think grad is a dangerous time for experimenting. But what our kids are facing is they're facing it's like Russian roulette. So This is not only for kids. This could be for a staff member, somebody on the school grounds, a parent. We never know. But why not be prepared? And naloxone kits are free. We should be able to get them for very little cost, and the training, I think, would be crucial. As to whether they're handed out at some point in time, I think students could benefit from learning about naloxone kits and the use through the school system and their classrooms, and drug use awareness and hopefully refusal. But that's another issue. That's not what this motion is asking for. It's just asking for the kits to be available and ready. You never know who you're going to save. But if we can save a life, that's good. So AEDs and naloxone, that's my motion. And if you have any questions.
Trustee Sargent, Trustee Yang, Trustee Hamaguchi.
Well, thank you very much, Trustee Tablotny, for your passionate motion. And I know you're very passionate about the topic, and as are we all. And I think there is a real need for everybody to take ownership and help this situation for sure. AED, I've been part of a discussion recently at a different hat on, and it's this district had a discussion about AEDs many years ago, and of course everything is much more complicated than it appears. And I know this, even though the machines are much easier, someone talks you through it. We have buildings that have little kids in them. We have staff, we have unions, we have parents, and all those people need to feel very okay with whatever we do. So I really appreciate that this is going to staff to research, because I think there are lots of people that we need to consider about doing this. And some of the discussions I've been part of have been around taking responsibility for actually doing the AED on someone. It's a heavy load. It can save a life, but it's also a big task. And then not to get into the dynamics of just money, but each AED is around $1,500 unless we get a deal because we're a public entity. And how many do you need per site? And so when you start adding them up, I was adding it up this morning, it's a big chunk. And then you have to do annual maintenance. Who's going to do that? So of course, something that sounds really, really good and important, which it is, needs to have a deep dive, because we are not, I really do think about our staff a lot. And I think first responders, I think they might have an opinion about that. They're young people. Do they want to be responsible for the AED or the naloxone? And I know the city just passed something. All their sites will have a kit available to an adult to use if they choose to come and get one. So I think that's helpful information for our staff to talk to them. They're not handing them out. But again, that's adults in a building. And so it's a little bit different than a school. But I'm really interested to see if, what staff comes up with, and if it's doable for us, or if there's a gap measure or a compromise or something. But I know staff will ensure that everyone is part of this deep discussion about these two important things that we could potentially use. Thank you.
Trustee Yang, I'm going to go with Trustee Beliza because I made the mistake. So I will call you after. Thank you. Trustee Beliza?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I always inclined to support anything that would save life. Having said that, I'd like to know the clarity of the objectives. And secondly, is there in our fiduciary and guardian responsibility for the kids or for the staff, do we have any legal obligation to do that? Or do we have the right to do that? Because later on, there will be legal implications if we are not. Like, for example, do we have enough manpower to do the first responders job. Because if we do that, and there could be some kind of negligence, there could be liability against the district. And aside from the budgetary constraints that we have, which is secondary, I think the board should have all this kind of information so that we could decide appropriately. But referring to whether or not this would be feasible, this would be reasonable and practical for the district because of our obligation to do so, then, for me, I'm for the referral, just for the referral, for further information. Thank you.
Trustee Yang?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. And I first of all want to thank Trustee Tablotny for bringing this forward and for her advocacy. As a colleague and as a friend, I'm always thinking of you with respect of this. And thank you for including AEDs as part of your motion. As per when I first understood that you wanted to bring this forward, this is all about saving life. That's the main intention. And I thought, wow, what a better way to address this than to look at AEDs as also an additional resource. So I want to thank you for that. My experience as a occupational first aid attendant at my workplace is that, we're unfortunately having to seek these resources, naloxone, as part of our work as first aid attendants, so we can save lives. And we all know that this is a worsening crisis in our community. And so, this is certainly part of my work in my workplace as an occupational first aid attendant. So I see those. I see that as on my observation. With respect to the AEDs, I think there have long been calls to introduce them in our schools. I think back in 2018, there was in fact a student that had raised this issue. In addition to that, we had a former McRoberts first responder who now works at the community center or worked at the community center and actually saved a life because he had that training in how to use an AED, how to operate as a first responder. Just even more recently, when I was at McRoberts Secondary, a student was presenting his capstone project, and he was a first responder at his school. And so he was highlighting the need for this, just the value of saving life, right? And that's so important. A piece of educational reflection that the student had. Of course, I say that with understanding that there are important implications and considerations, such as the type of AEDs for different ages, because there are ones for adults, but certainly with smaller children, the models and the equipment needed is slightly different. The cost, obviously, of having that in place, the maintenance and upkeep, I think that's been spoken of, and applicable legislation. I know that there are things, federal legislation like the Good Samaritans Act that covers some of this issue, but all that's to say is that staff can have a look at this, do their homework, do the research, and then come back to us so we're better informed, because we're not on the ground every day in our schools, and we're certainly not there in a consistent basis to make a call right then and right now. But I just wanted to say that these are all critical interventions in the first aid world that can mean life or death in a medical emergency. And so I think we as a district should at least consider Again, doing our homework, doing our research. So whatever tools and recommendations that we bring forth, we're making our spaces safer for our students. We're making it safer for our staff, and we're making it safer for our community. So with that, I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Hamaguchi?
The motion, like the previous motion from Mr. Yang, to me is a no-brainer as well, is we're asking someone to look into it. Not asking them to go buy it or to sign us up. We're just, the feasibility of whether or not this is, whether we should go ahead. I'll say there's gonna be a big discussion. Should it go forward to, well, maybe we should entertain the idea. Obviously, a lot of the arguments that have been raised tonight will come out and everything. And we can go on forever and ever, but just on a personal note, and it was said tonight about saving the life. The thing with the ADs, if it was something, a measure that was extremely costly, okay, let's fit the schools with operating room, that'll save lives, but that's kind of ridiculous, right? They have AEDs at the ice arena. So to me, if they can have it at the ice rinks, probably, if it's seen as a good idea, then I think I can justify putting it into the schools. I worry so much that we always in fear of litigation. We're gonna get sued. Well, actually, that's why we have insurance too. But I don't want to get sued, but at the same time too, I don't want someone to pass away and go, we can save them, but you know what? Hey, we're not gonna get sued, all right? That's a good thing, right? So, in terms of valuing the life of that individual and, measuring it against, it's gonna take a lot to train people. It's gonna do a lot to, and I don't want to play those down because those are legitimate, but I'm just saying from a personal perspective, I look at saving that life as, I'd make that trade-off. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Wong, go ahead.
You, Chairperson. My question is that you just bring ED and adolescent kids, right? The adolescent kids, I know that the provincial is give to the Shoppers Drug Mart, and everyone can take that free for them, and give them 15 minutes training. And they get the kids and provide the 15-minute training for them how to use that kit. Yeah. So if I just think if that some is people is need, they can go pick up that by themselves and get the training that the government provided. So why we need to put on the public school as a risk? And one thing is that I saw the website of the government website official say they just focus on the 18 to 25 age years old. They focus the age is 18 to 25 for training and for this adolescent kids training. Yeah. So is our school district, how many students is 18 and how many students is just like need that kids? Yeah. So we need to think about is need that or not, because now is a government is free for us, free for everyone. It's needed to pick up from Shoppers Drug Mart and provide 15 minutes training for them. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I respond?
Trustee Jablotny?
Okay, you don't have to be 18 to have a drug overdose. You can have one at any level.
They just say that the focus age is 18 to 25.
Well,
For
that's
they provide the training for the school children.
Okay, I don't know about providing training for students. That's not what the motion is asking for. The motion is asking for naloxone kits to be available in schools and for someone to be trained to use them if there is an overdose. When someone has an overdose, they're usually slumped over and not breathing, or their breathing is shallow. They are not able to administer it to themselves. So that is a very important fact. You can do one shot of that naloxone, it could bring them back. You would still call 911. Okay, these kits, if somebody is not having an opioid overdose, they do no harm at all. There is no reason why you couldn't use it. But that could save a life. Kids are, I know that we've had students that we have lost in our district. And if they'd had a naloxone kit or someone around them had known how to use it, they'd be alive. Just saying.
Thank you. I have trustee DeBontney and then myself. And not trustee, looking at you, sorry. Trustee, it's hot in here now. We have
It is warm in here.
trustee Hamaguchi.
I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with the vote.
Just before we
Privilege.
do, I just want to make a comment.
It's not
The
debatable.
feasibility study will consider all of these issues that have
Mhm.
been raised.
And I sent
So,
a rationale, so.
I-
Close.
Yeah,
Frivolous question, Madam Chair.
go ahead.
While we are trying to refer this matter to the office of the superintendent, I'd like to ask a question or a comment of the office of of our superintendent, whether or not it is feasible for him to do this
Can I
feasibility
point
study.
of order?
Have-
Just one moment. The trustee Hamaguchi called for the vote to be taken. That isn't usually debatable. It's usually just done.
Those want to second it, though?
I will second it.
Okay.
And then you call a vote. Are we-
Point of order. We have one person that would like to speak. He's already spoken. Can we just not hear the answer from our superintendent? We don't work. this way.
Sure. We'll,
Okay.
thank you, trustee DeBontney. I think
We're all going to get there.
Well, through the chair, thank you very much for all the questions, because these are very important questions. And these are questions that the essence of a feasibility study, the way the motion is worded, allows staff to engage in doing exactly what the board is having a conversation about tonight. Of course, that will also include looking at conducting an environmental scan and looking at other places both within this province and elsewhere that have taken similar steps with respect to this. And we do know, even without engaging in this process at this time, based on preliminary assessment, that we have jurisdictions in this province that have some of these in their schools. So I think the feasibility study will allow your staff to do its due diligence and to anticipate all the questions and the issues that the board has raised tonight, and to come to you with a report where the board can further have a conversation in terms of the contents of that report. What's valuable tonight is that you've raised questions that we need to consider as part of that feasibility study. And we'll make sure that those questions are answered in that report so that the board could be rest assured I'll be better informed in terms of having all the information that you need as a board in making a determination with respect to moving forward. So the commitment from administration, should this motion pass tonight, is that we will engage in the process as directed by the board to ensure that we are thorough in our considerations, whether with respect to procurement, respect to training, storage, all of the above, appropriateness, and so on. So we will certainly, and also the partnership that would be required, given that we're not medical experts and neither are school staffs experts in this as well. So I just wanted to put that on the table. So thank you for the opportunity to clarify.
Thank you. I call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Thank you. I will now give my report, 8B. Read. I would like to share a few highlights from the board's advocacy work with regards to City Center. We were able to meet with some of our MLAs in early December. We focused on the astonishing 42% enrollment growth in our city center schools, which equates to an increase of 600 students over the past 4 years. We explored land transfers and innovative solutions to our current challenges with respect to the need for a new elementary school in the city center. We requested exploratory discussions with their counterparts about the availability of provincially owned sites within city center, which might allow us to investigate the feasibility of a land acquisition. We made it abundantly clear that we are open to identifying alternate strategies. The situation we find ourselves in is the responsibility of all levels of government and our collective commitment. We shared the importance of our collaborative efforts, which leads me to our next step. A letter was sent to the Mayor and Council December 8th, requesting a meeting at their earliest convenience for a collaborative discussion highlighting the ongoing challenge for a school in city center. In addition, we have requested a follow-up meeting that will bring together the board, our local MLAs, and city council to broaden our dialogue and collective action. We also requested involvement of the school board in the review and update of the City of Richmond's official community plan, which would help ensure that educational facilities are appropriately integrated within the city's infrastructure for future developments. Next, I also want to advise that our,
I have a comment.
oh, I'm sorry, I didn't look up. Sorry, trustee.
Too? Thank you. It must seem perhaps to people watching that this is a new topic for us and something that maybe we're newly doing. I have to just let you know that when the city center area plan came forward at city council over 10 years ago, the school board was at the council table telling and asking where in this gigantic plan is a school. And there was one word on page 8 that mentioned school. That was it. And it has carried on since then. There has been no movement on allocating a spot for where a school might go. We've had numerous meetings over years and years. We have been advocating in every way possible to say to city, to ministry, that we are going to be facing an emergent situation. And guess what? That's where we are. And I'll speak for myself. This has to be solved. This is, everybody puts it back on us. Well, it's not our problem. It's us, all of us, we are supposed to be making a community where it's vibrant, livable, lovable, safe. And we learned during the pandemic that the neighborhood school is the hub of absolutely everything. If the school isn't open, nothing happens. And I was really happy to see a lot of people decided, hey, you know what, that statement is really true. Well, you know what, there's a lot of development going on in city center. It has been ongoing for the past 10 years, and there is no school. And the question that I have, and I know this board has, is where are all the children going to go to school where all these developments are being raised? We can look out the window right now. There's at least 10, 12 towers that will have children in the school. I don't mean for this to be a soapbox, but this is not our first kick at the can. This has been going on and on and on, and something needs to be moved. We need to be part of the OCP. That's the official community plan, where we can sit at the table and go, where would you suggest a school go with all these new towers? We need to be there. There needs to be movement, because those kids are not going to be able to fit in any of our city center schools. And thank you, RTA, for presenting the brief tonight, because we're very thankful for modular schools, but they are not schools. They are boxes that are added onto a school where staff are supposed to and parents and students are supposed to have gym time. And the question was asked at the meeting I was at recently, are there modular gyms? So this is a Band-Aid approach on a problem that is ongoing, and all three levels of government can't pass it around the circle. This is us creating a community with children in it, in towers, and this board is going to move, and we're going to do whatever we need to do now that is not just sitting at a table talking to people. Thank you.
Trustee Yang.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and I'll make this brief. I'm very glad that our board has united to send this letter, and it's publicly accessible through our website, so the public can take a look at our ask. But I think we've made it clear time and time again, and year after year, that the solution to our problem in the city center has to be a path towards new school sites to alleviate those pressures. And been to a fair share of PAC meetings, been to a fair share of schools. And I can give you an example where I was at Tommy Elementary and a school community of about 350 kids. When they're looking across the street over on the other side of Garden City Road, they're seeing all these towers come up. And so even for smaller schools, this is going to become a problem. You know, I think we've made it clear through our advocacy and the advocacy of our stakeholders that, you know, secondary school size population with elementary school infrastructure is just not sustainable. And so I think we're at a juncture now where the right solutions require those additional supports from different levels of government. The city of Richmond, the province, they all have to meet us where we are at as a district and as a community, because they have the policy tools and resources. And so I very much look forward to sitting down once again with our counterparts in those institutions as per our letter. And, you know, something's got to move. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Okay, what I do want to advise everyone, the public.
Okay. Well, I was just going to make a comment and reinforce what's been said here. You know, it's been a long conversation, years and years, with the city, and it hasn't got us anywhere. But if you take a drive through the core of Richmond, the amount of high rises is astounding. And the speed at which they have gone up is even more astounding. And I don't see pieces of property that a school can be built on. It's getting really frightening. So I am worried. You know, we'll have to be creative, but the city needs to work with us. And I think, thank you to the RTA for highlighting this. And I think people need to speak up if this is going to get solved. You know, I think, you know, the province has said they're willing to help us, but we have to have the piece of property. And one of the pieces of property we have is possibly suitable, but not ideal. And we've been looking for a piece of property for so long. I think the public needs to start putting pressure on the city to come up with something too, and to work with the school district. Parents need to start speaking up. So, and the public. So anyway, thank you. That's
Trustee Beliza, really short.
Talking of advocacy and creativity, I think we had been advocating for quite a while. If we can, it can be of help. I like that once we identify options and priorities of the district, we can have a brief presentations and take the leadership of the RTA the way they presented as part of, you know, of our stakeholders representations. I think that's the kind of advocacy that the political institution need to understand. That is, once we identify our options and priorities, then we can probably make a presentation to the city and make the city be on the defensive side as to what they're gonna do for public and school interest is concerned. We follow the RTA style of advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to advise that the new committee appointments and trustee school liaison assignments are posted now on our district website. And we now are at questions from the public. Opportunity or public is invited to come forward with questions regarding agenda items. Pardon me, Secretary Treasurer. Pardon me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Hello, my name is Sheldon Starrett. I'm a resident here of Richmond. And the agenda item that I wish to talk about is 8A regarding the defibrillators and the Naxalon kits in schools. As for defibrillators, I think that's a good idea. Most of the community centers, ice rinks have that, so no problems with that. However, I do think it is the fact that a school trustee deems it important enough to introduce into public schools. I think this is important for parents, the community, for just residents here in Richmond to have a concern if opioid drugs are being used by students in Richmond schools. And I guess, does the Richmond School Board have any key statistics on the use of opioids or other drugs in Richmond schools? And is this measure also a response to any particular drug overdose incidences in Richmond public schools? I think it might even be better if this motion, or at least when it comes back after being studied, that it should maybe be split up, because I think they're both important issues, but I think they are also two different issues. I guess the other thing too is it's important to have consultation with parents, with residents. And so I think this is something that should involve more members of the community and all stakeholders in that. Other questions, what is the training qualification for using such kits? And also, as some trustees talked about, the liability of using some of those as well. And if the school district is planning to bring in these measures for Naxalone, should the school district also involve more resources that should be directed simultaneously at drug prevention and education? And I noticed that Trustee Tablotny earlier, she did mention an incident in Nanaimo. And I think the investigative journalist, Sam Cooper, he published a very important article on October 19th of this year entitled Slowly Dying, Medical Heroin Substitute Exacerbating Violence of Fentanyl Crisis in Nanaimo. And in the article, Mr. Cooper describes how prior to Safe Supply, they weren't seeing teenage students going and purchasing drugs just from people who have collected drugs, Safe Supply from these dispensaries. But after the Safe Supply has started, they've been seeing more 15, 16-year-olds, other teenagers using more drugs. And I think it's just, yeah, it's important to know is that if this is happening in Nanaimo, it's probably happening in other school districts, and what is being done to deal with this crisis, this opioid crisis, and possibly getting more young people into drugs. And it kind of is reminiscent of the Purdue pharmaceutical crisis, but almost as if it's being enabled by government and Safe Supply activists, because some of these drugs are being diverted by users for more powerful street drugs and are being sold to people in public schools. And they're even coming up with nomenclature and terminology like dillies, just referred to some of these drugs. It may very well be a sad fact that we will have to have naloxone kits in Richmond schools to save lives. But if children are becoming addicted to hard drugs. I think we need to look at the cause and effect of this and try to prevent this dangerous drug use from happening. So I hope the school district can focus more on education of drugs and prevention. And once the school district has studied this more, I hope they can engage with parents and with the community for more consultation on this important matter. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. Did we, Secretary Treasurer, Madam Secretary Treasurer, did we have any online questions or? comments?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. A question was received in the board meeting email address relating to the provision of naloxone kits in the schools. And given the scope of the questions, staff will take the questions back and respond through email. Thank you.
Very much.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, we're on to standing committee reports. Audit Committee, Trustee Yang.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The next meeting for the Audit Committee is scheduled for Tuesday, January 9th, 2024. Thanks.
Okay, I'm the chairperson of the Education Committee. This meeting will be held on Wednesday, January 17th at 2024 at 6 p.m. Trustee Hamaguchi, Facilities and Building.
Buildings. Minutes of the meeting held on November 1st are attached for information. We did have a meeting last Wednesday, December 6th. The next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, January 10th at 4:30.
Finance and Legal, Trustee Sargent.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The next meeting is Wednesday, January 17th, 2024 at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Trustee Tablotny, Policy Committee.
Policy Committee has a recommendation regarding the public interest disclosure policy. And the recommendation, I will read it and move it, and hoping for a seconder. That the Board of Education approved the attached policy, which is in the package, 402, 402R, 402G, public interest disclosure in accordance with Board Policy 204, creation and revision of policy and regulations.
Do we have a seconder? Thank you, Trustee Yang.
Okay. The background on this one is that Public Interest Disclosure Act came into effect on December 1st, 2019. And it was established as to protect whistleblowers in the public sector entities. And it was applied to provincial government ministries and independent officers. That in September 2020, the Ministry of the Attorney General informed British Columbia Public School Employers Association of the government's commitment to extending the coverage of the Act to school districts. And there are 31 school districts that have a policy on public interest disclosure. And some of them have updated their policies. And so this report is presenting a draft. Initial discussion was held by members of the Policy Committee in September. The draft policy was shared for feedback from trustees, and draft policy reflecting trustee feedback with committee referral to the board for notice of motion. So I gave a notice of motion on November meeting and looking for final approval of the policy. Now, this policy is a board policy and therefore does not go out for feedback from education partners. And so it did not go into the stakeholder review. So, and then following the establishment of the policy, the district will provide training for all employees using materials provided by BCPC. So looking for approval tonight of the policy.
Go ahead, Trustee Wong.
Motion approved.
Oh, okay, I'll call the question.
Any questions? No.
Are there any questions or comments?
No.
Okay, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
And thank you very much.
Thank
to
you.
Our Secretary Treasurer for the work. I believe it was
Our board committee and representative reports, council board liaison committee, the city will be hosting the meetings this year and we'll be providing dates for review shortly. BCSTA, trustee Yang?
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Trustees will know that the Academy was held on November 23rd to 25th at the Weston Bay Shore in Vancouver, and just another opportunity for education partners and trustees to connect and have those conversations and enhance our system. Thanks.
BCPC, trustee Tablotny?
Yes, so there's an annual general meeting scheduled for January 25th. And the trustee representative, which is myself, has been registered, but I'm going to be away. It is on Zoom. So I will try to attend, but I'm hoping there's an alternate that would attend as well. And I'm not sure who we have as an alternate. Is it trustee Beliza? I'm hoping that you would be available to attend. I can send you the information.
I'll try if you can.
Okay. And I believe trustee Sargent as well would be on that Zoom meeting. Is that correct?
As a board member. be
Okay.
But there are motions.
Yes.
You'll have to vote on it and then elections.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how it will work.
Thank you. There's no, pardon me.
We'll look towards a solution somehow.
There's no correspondence for the board this evening, for the board meeting. Before I adjourn the meeting, I would like to take this opportunity to thank you all for everything you do. We are so grateful, and we want to wish you all the best of the holidays and good rest and lots of joy. And we look forward to seeing you all in the new year. And on that note, I'd like to get a mover and a seconder to adjourn the meeting. Trustee Hamaguchi, seconded by trustee Tablotny. All those in favor? Opposed? That was a test. Motion carried. Thank you.